We're following breaking news in Harrisburg, where crews put out a house fire. Emergency dispatchers say this started just before 2 this morning on Jefferson Street between Emerald and Camp Streets. They say they're not aware of any injuries at this time. One firefighter was heard while responding to a mountain fire in Franklin County. 911 dispatchers say the fire started around 3 yesterday afternoon in the area of Nob Hill Road in Green Township. They say the firefighter that was hurt was from Adams County. Dispatchers say 5 to 10 acres have been burned. Also in Franklin County, crews responded to a house fire in Guilford Township. The Franklin Fire Company says that fire started just after noon yesterday on Hunter's Lane. The fire company says that started in a shed right next to the home, but flames spread to the second floor of the home and the garage. And crews fought a barn fire in York County. The fire started around 11:30 yesterday morning on Main Street in Chanceford Township. York County Emergency Management says crews heard loud noises that sounded like ammunition shells going off while fighting the fire. No one was hurt. Police in Lancaster County are investigating a deadly motorcycle crash. Columbia Borough officers say they were called to 12th Street and Lancaster Avenue around 6:15 yesterday morning. Police say they found a motorcycle on its side and its rider on the sidewalk. They say the person was taken to the hospital but later died from their injuries. PennDOT says it will shut down part of a busy Lancaster County highway next weekend. Work is set to start installing overhead signs around the Route 30, Route 222 interchange. PennDOT says crews will close the east and westbound lanes of Route 30, as well as the bridge carrying Route 222 over Route 30. The closure starts at 9 Friday night and will stay in place until 5 Monday morning. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the arson attack on the governor's residence in Harrisburg. Cody Balmer pled guilty to scaling a fence and breaking into the home while the Shapiro family was inside. Balmer was armed with a hammer and set fire to part of the house using Molotov cocktails. Last fall, he was sentenced to up to 50 years in prison. Governor Shapiro spoke about the healing process at a political conference last week.
When I had people reaching out of other faiths, praying for me and my family, that actually connected me in a deeper way to my own faith. And there are people in this room who reached out. You reached out, others did, and I must say that that was healing for our family. We don't have the physical scars of political violence, but certainly it took an emotional toll on our family. And honestly, the hardest thing for me in that process was trying to be a father throughout. Not being a governor, but being a father to our 4 children.
At the conference, the governor also addressed the rise in political violence in recent years and why he thinks it's happening.
When you attack people based on what they look like or where they come from, who they love or who they pray to, everyone is less safe. And attacking one person because of what they look like or how they pray makes everyone less safe. The President of the United States has a responsibility to do better.
Following the arson attack, the state spent about $40 million repairing the governor's residence and making security updates like cameras, shatterproof glass, a fire suppression system, and new fencing barriers. We have more coverage on the attack on our website, WGAL.com, including a walk and talk where the governor showed News 8's Tom Lehman around the home after the attack and talked about his experience. The United States and Iran failed to reach a deal during historic face-to-face talks this weekend. The White House didn't immediately comment on next steps or whether the 2-week ceasefire agreement would continue. Our Washington correspondent Jackie DeFusco joins us live from our Washington bureau with a recap of those negotiations. Jackie.
21 hours of talks, Bailey, ultimately ending in no deal. Vice President J.D. Vance left those negotiations in Pakistan yesterday, saying that Iran refused to agree to their terms. Take a listen.
The simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations.
But Iranian officials blame the United States and a lack of trust for the breakdown without specifying sticking points, at least in their initial reactions. Now, the next steps this morning really are not immediately clear. At least mediators in these talks, Pakistan, are urging both sides to continue abiding by the 2-week ceasefire, as Pakistan says they're trying to facilitate another round of talks in the coming days. Earlier on Saturday, though, President Trump seemed to downplay the need for a deal.
Regardless what happens, we win. We've totally defeated that country.
Now, meanwhile, the U.S. military says that it is taking steps to begin to clear a safe pathway through the Strait of Hormuz with the goal of resuming trade there ultimately, including those critical oil shipments. The Pentagon saying that it was able to move 2 warships through that strait on Saturday, something that Iran denies, Bailey.
And Jackie, you mentioned that the future of Iran's nuclear program is a major sticking point in these negotiations. So if diplomacy doesn't work, what options does the Trump administration have?
There's really a range here, Bailey, and Secretary Pete Hegseth told reporters last week when prompted with this exact scenario that they could potentially launch another military operation targeting Iran's nuclear facilities like we saw last year from this administration. And, you know, President Trump still has not ruled out the possibility of putting American ground troops in Iran to seize their highly enriched uranium, which could ultimately be used to create a nuclear weapon, although Iran insists it is a peaceful program. Of course, that experts say comes with its own set of risks, including higher American casualties potentially. And, you know, prior to these most recent round of talks, President Trump had suggested that Iran may voluntarily help the United States in digging up deeply buried what he called nuclear dust. But we have heard no such commitment from Iran, at least publicly, and it does appear, again, from the outcome of these talks, that this nuclear program still is a major point of contention. Back to you, Bailey.
All right, Jackie, live in our Washington bureau. Thank you very much. Well, amid all of this, the state average for a gallon of gas went down another cent overnight, now at $4.16 for a gallon of regular. In the Susquehanna Valley, Mifflin County is still the most expensive, with the average gallon of regular at $4.38. Most of the western counties are above the state average. Most of the eastern counties are at or below the state average. Franklin County still has the cheapest average gallon of gas in the Susquehanna Valley at $4.07.